and welcome to another episode of Bud Mashes, and today we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV. There's this article that proves everything I think a lot of people have been saying that's right. This is from PC Gamer, and it says, Final Fantasy XIV unofficial census finds what we were all pretty much feeling before patch 2.7.25 Dawntrail playbase has been likely on decline. I think everyone's been saying that, and I've been saying that because I'll be honest, 7.2 was really, I'll be honest, a step up. But this whole expansion was just, what the frick is going on, Square? I'm not coming back for Cold Crescent, but I'm also having more fun with, let's say, Guild Wars 2, Dead by Daylight, and I also started a new save in Fallout 4. So, I really, right now do not have enough time on my, sort of table to put in Final Fantasy 14 because then you got like IRL stuff, like you got work, and all the stuff you need to do in order to be a productive, normal human being. So right now, I just don't have the time for Final Fantasy 14, and I think they did that to themselves because so many video games on the market that essentially even the older games people can go back and play. Games from like 10 years ago been such in a boom because they're actually really good. And I think companies not only got to compete with the newer games on the market, but with the older games, and they got to make really good product, which wasn't Dawntrail. But anyways, we'll go into this article, and then I'll give my thoughts as we go. I concur with PC Gamer's Molly Taylor, my fellow Final Fantasy enjoyer. Final Fantasy 14 enjoyer on a illustrious staff. The FF14's Cold Crescent patch has made the game feel like an MMO again. I actually got downright emotional hopping into my first critical encounter and seeing swarms of strangers crowding around a chance to give a boss a beatdown. Oh, I thought I'm playing an MMO again. That's weird. Like when they did the first Cosmic Exploration patch, I saw everyone there. Was like, oh wow, that's like it's so many people. It feels like the world is alive. Goes on. But with that joy came a recognition of almost a full year of malaise, seeing desolate friendless and linked shells lie empty. A malaise that at least unofficially has been backed up by the numbers, thanks automation. Lucky Bronco, has run an unofficial census for years. Given that there aren't official numbers from Square Enix, they should be taken with a hefty pinch of salt. But they aren't a bad temperature check for how the playbase is doing. However, seeing friendless and link shells empty, I think is a bad sign. I mean, even a new expansion pack area, which you'd think would have more people, was pretty empty, like after the first few weeks, which was Solution 9. I mean, yeah, you got people hanging out there, like FC houses and stuff, but you'd still see people go there because they would have to turn in things like the totem stones, the relics to get new gear, and they would turn in if there the appraisal stuff. Or at least people would be crafting near the appraiser, and they would give sort of the gear and get the currency for the appraisal currency. Like you'd see people with crafting macros, which that wasn't even there, or at least on my server. And usually my server that I played on usually has a queue, and right now I think there's a queue, but like when the patch was going on and when it was like 7.0 and like around that time, it was empty. There weren't that many people doing crafting stuff and all that. So yeah. And anyways, let's go on. Monkey Bracco compiles this census via Lodestone, a character repository hosted by Square Enix, to determine whether a character is active or not. They measure certain barometers against their prior survey results. This includes things like changes in HP XP, obtain new meanings amounts, and like their estimates of achieved active accounts is roughly 950,000, and while the numbers cannot be taken exact for exact at face value, significantly lower than the prior numbers of 990,000 obtained using the same methodology. Lucky Bank Show also has different batch of data that tracks achievements, placing them into a graph. This information is obtained in quarterly segments, so it's not quite finished yet. The latest quarter will end in June, but it's clear the downward trend. There has been no movement in reverse since last quarter. And you know what? I'll post a graph as sort of so you guys can see what I'm following along. But it's essentially Q3 2021. It was up, and that was sort of when numbers from COVID. It's sort of like that was 2019. It sort of went up, and then 2020. It's sort of peaked and went like a little up at 2021 towards the opening of Endwalker. And I think one thing really happened in Endwalker was sort of the WoW Exodus, where essentially a lot of people left World of Warcraft in order to play Final Fantasy XIV or try different MMOs because WoW really fumbled the ball with the last expansion pack, Shadowlands, and sort of Asmongold came over. And you know what? Okay, that I can understand, but it started to dip lower and lower because Endwalker as a player really didn't have that much. And this is someone who played the expansion pack. Like, the story was great. I'll be honest, even though I know a lot of people didn't like the patch quests with Zero and stuff, but which is your opinion. I liked it, and I think that was just pacing. But the problem is there was no content for people to stay. Um, they had no really concrete legendary quest. Like, there was one for them if you did the Mandeville quest, but it wasn't really to get hardcore players who worked for the weapon to earn it, which is something I agree with. Like, if you're a hardcore player and you grind for hours for the relic weapon, and well, that's what's called, you should get it. That's just my opinion. But the issue is, like, there was like one dungeon. They tried Criteria, Criteria Variant Dungeons, which is pretty boring. And then they had Island Sanctuaries, which was just sad. And I think this was sort of the setup, because this whole Endwalker had a great story, and the trials were fun, but the problem was there wasn't that much content for mid-core players, even hardcore players. There's only like raiding stuff, and they had nothing. I understand, yes, content for content's sake shouldn't be there, but there was nothing incentivizing people to play in a way that was fun. Like, I used to do Palace of the Dead when that first came out. And I did a lot of Ishgard restoration too. So I think this was sort of the backdrop of the problems that Square faced, because there was sort of content down in Endwalker, and I think they spread the team too thin because they also had them working on Final Fantasy 16. And so there was a lot of criticisms when it came to Square during that time. However, I think the nail in the coffin was Dawntrail, because while it didn't peak to Endwalker launch numbers on its graph, it was up there. I mean, people and many fans come back to the next expansion pack because they want to try it, and hope there's change. I mean, many of the people who play this game from, I would guess, around the born like myself, were like, oh, and are hardcore fans of the game, like, oh, new expansion pack, I'm gonna get this and play it. And so the graph went up, but it started to tilt downward in Dawntrail, or Snortrail, Yawntrail, Failtrail, whichever one you want. But after the art graph, we'll go back to the article, which was all this info was obtained towards patch 7.25, which myself and Mallory Molly are enjoying very much, and it'll be interesting to see if it injects some life back into Square's money-making baby. It fucking better, cause Square's in trouble. They killed their golden goose. And to be clear, a game with 1 million players, is by no means dead. But I can take a few guesses why these things have gotten why. Final Fantasy 4, they said Final Fantasy 14 has content schedule release problem. I agree. I agree. It says Dawntrail has no mid-core repeatable content. Agreed. 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 I think there's also, they talk about Creative Studio 3's scheduling nearly a year after the expansion pack, prioritizing saturated extreme trials and ultimates over stuff the majority of its players do. I agree. That isn't to say they should neglect Savage Raids, but like I said before in another podcast episode, they should have put in 7.1. They should have maybe started Cosmic Exploration there and put one of the Savages. So you get both people happy, and you could instead sort of spread it out, and you can spread Savages and Extremes out. Maybe put, like, I don't know, a Cold Crescent at 7.2. Also, a tournament, I think they already said it, which was content cycle, where instead of 7.2 when the thing's coming out, oh, it's 7.25, and you gotta wait, especially for a month for the content, or a few months for the content you're excited for. Like if you were, oh yeah, I love a Cold Crescent, it looks great, I want to try it. Yeah, then you're gonna have to wait those months. Content drip cycle is not going to work well for Square. And then they talk about the story, which has been a contention for everyone. Wait, are we allowed to talk about the story and its main character, Will Lamont, or has that blown over? Because apparently, I'm going to be definitely shady on this one, and be very petty. But I will say this: you couldn't criticize Will Lamont because then you'd be a transphobe. Because the voice actress was trans, which okay, I said so many times in my podcast episodes that you could criticize Welcome Lot. That's 100%, but do not go after the voice actress without them casting the first stone, so to speak. And the story was a hot mess express. Like I preferred the Solution 9 part, but even that part was just, oh my god. Like there's so much they could have done, but they didn't. And I think Look Lamont, her character is sort of a symptom of this bad storytelling. I think the problem is the drama around Look Lamont really turned people off. I mean, it turned me off from the community. And I understand Square can't control its community, but the problem is if you can't criticize the character game because of people's headcanons, of course people are going to be upset. And I think it's just going to further push people to essentially make jokes about, not even just Will Lamont, but the voice actress in general. I mean, if I was someone, that maybe like the voice actress, I'd be like, you know what, let's let this pass. Because if we essentially um, force them to like the character, we're just gonna pour kerosene on the whole situation. Like they could have just let it pass, and so it became this whole situation. Point two's patch got better, but the problem is Dawntrail should have been the first part where it really done well. I mean, I understand there's no world-ending stakes, but this could have been a better time to get to know your scions and have some more like personal stakes in the story. Like there could have been a better reason why Yonjay and Ankrad helped Conan. Not just, hey, we're going with the tide and the waves, and that's it. It's just, it was a poorly executed expansion pack. While yes, expansion pack was bad, the choices in Endwalker didn't really help either. So, anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up here. What do you guys think? Are you gonna go back to Final Fantasy 14, or you're just riding it out? Anyways, thank you for listening. Stay healthy, stay hydrated, take care. Bye bye.